Here, Tirannwn, we're talking about the Elfland, Prifdnis and Tirannwn, right? I think, maybe? I don't know. Moving on. If you choose this region, you're not spending all this time here. You're probably coming in and getting out. And that's because this region is really, really point dense. And what I mean by that is there's only 3 or 4 things to do, which means you're going to do a lot of those 3 or 4 things as soon as you unlock this region. You're going to get all of the points for those 3 or 4 things, and there's going to be a lot of double up. And they're just going to leave and you're never going to come back. And what it does is really, really, really good. Don't get me wrong. You come here very clearly for a reason, and then when you're done doing that reason, you're out and you're not looking back. So what is that reason? What is it that you're coming here for? And really, it's for the bow of furtive. I don't know, man. What is up with the words in this region? We're here with the Bofa, all right? You do Corrupted Gauntlet. You get this ranged weapon that is insane in the main game, that is able to use the ranged relic to make it even stronger. And then off you go, off to the races to go do all of the content in every other region you select. And with that, let's talk about the bosses. Obviously the big one. It's the reason you come here. You come here for the Bofa, and in order to get that, you're going to do the Gauntlet and the Corrupted Gauntlet. You do this to get the Enhanced Crystal Weapon Seed and the Armor Seeds, so that way you have a full set of Crystal Armor for your Bofa, and ideally you get 2 Enhanced Armor Seeds, one for the Bofa, and then also the Blade of Salador is not a bad melee weapon. It is a better whip, and something that is definitely very, very worthwhile to go for. Now, you can expect there to be a lot of tasks for these. Everything from get XKC multiple times over and over, multiple speed tasks, very similar to how the combat achievements are, except those times are going to be cranked up to 11 because you're going to have relics and it's going to buff your damage, and you can probably do them with worse gear and stats. So it is something you can rush really, really early. You also get a ton of GP from high alts, which is really nice to help fund your account early on if this is one of either your first or second region. And the drop rates are increased, so not only is it going to be faster, but you're going to see those enhanced weapon seeds a little bit faster than you would in the main game, which is amazing. Now, you can't just leave the region though without at least looking at the other bosses, because there is going to be quite a few points tied to the Money Snake and Volcano. Zora has a lot of uniques. You have your Blowpipe, you have your Serpentine Visage, you have your Toxic Trident upgrade, you have your Jars, you have your Mutagens. There's a lot of uniques on Zora's table, and on top of that, there's actually a lot of other pretty useful items on her normal drop table too. Things like anti-venoms and U-seeds and spirit tree seeds and all sorts of just goodies that you can really use to help really expedite your skilling from grinding out the uniques on this boss that will ultimately all probably have tasks as well. Very, very, very task heavy boss. So Kano probably doesn't have nearly as many tasks. You probably still have quite a bit of the KC tasks. You probably get a crystal tool seed. But that's kind of it as far as tasks. But it's really the only other thing that you can do that actually gives you points in this region for your elite and masters. There's not really much else. That's it. Those are your bosses. That's your content in this region. Now, I know the big question. Is it worth going to this region just for the Bofa? Because that's ultimately really what you're deciding, right? The deciding factor here is, are you going ranged? Because if you're not going ranged overall, you're probably not taking this region. It doesn't really offer you anything insane. Unless you're just here to do CG really, really fast and that's fun to you, feel free. But if you're looking a long-term vision, you're probably taking a ranged relic if you're coming in here. And you're probably coming here for the Bofa. So how good is it? Okay, crunch some numbers for me. What are we looking at? And unfortunately, I have to announce that they murdered her boy.
Yes.
You look at the main game and Bofa is the brick wall that holds Iron Man back from doing all of the content, that it's supposed to unlock everything. And yet, in Trailblazer Elite Reloaded, a rune crossbow, the most simple, basic item that you can get in the starter regions, with ruby bolts, or diamond bolts, depending on the HP of your boss you're killing, out DPSs with the range relic, the Bofa at basically every single boss in the game. That all said, the Bofa is not necessarily bad. They didn't actually nerf the Bofa, right? But there are things that might be better. And as you look at your late game and what exactly you want to be doing, because the point density is so high, you only have to do 2-3 bosses and you get all of the points. And then you can move on and really focus in on doing the content, doing the raids, doing the big long grinds that you don't have to do in all 3 regions because you have a region like this. And even though the Bofa might be worse, that consistency, that reliability, that is so nice. And it's definitely something to consider and shouldn't be the reason why you don't choose this region, just because the rune crossbow might be better in some places. And lastly, let's talk about skilling. There's a couple of things that are probably worth doing, and that's kind of it. So we're going to focus on those. As normal, let's talk about the combats. And in Tirannwn, you actually don't want to train really any of these. There's not any good methods for training any of this better than any other region that you're going to get. Assuming you have a good way of getting rune essence, such as I camped Zora for 500 KC and got all the uniques, and it gave me 50,000 pure essence, which is definitely something you can do in this region. This unlocks the death altar, which means you can make death runes, and it's a really long trek to the death altar. But again, we have last recall, so you make that trek one time and you have a infinite-ish supply of death runes, which is really, really, really cool. Construction is also pretty good here. You can kind of save a step of processing everything. The teak and mahogany logs are directly next to a sawmill. You can just chop sawmill and then bank and just do it in one like set thing. It just knocks out a little step, might save you a little bit of time. Agility is also pretty good in this region because you get the Priff agility rooftop course. And this is, I want to say, the 3rd best agility training method in the game. Sepulcher, Artie, and then Priff. For XP, which is great. If you need a high-end agility training method and all your other regions don't offer it, this is a great place to camp all the way to 99. Herblore is very bad. This region doesn't offer anything for you. Thieving is pretty good, especially if you take that Trickster relic that they announced as their first relic, where you get to auto pickpocket and you never fail. Clicking one time on a elf and pickpocketing until it's full to get those crystal enhanced teleport seeds is really, really good. Lots of GP from them, and you can turn those in to corrupt your Bofa or your Blade of Salador that you get. I'm gonna mark crafting and smithing. This is gonna be an interesting one, but we're gonna mark both of these as due in this region. And why are we marking these together? I just talked about thieving and how you can have a super AFK way of getting crystal shards. And this AFK-ness is actually so good. Once you get the 5x drop rate, you can actually just pickpocket enough of these tool seeds that once you have a single armor seed, you can actually just make helms and then disassemble them and make helms and disassemble them and do the really degen method where you get millions of XP an hour in the main game and then you get your 16x multiplier on that. Fletching very bad. You don't get anything new besides the teak and mahogany trees, and you definitely don't want to be turning those into teak shafts. Hunter is so good in this region. You have the red chin exclusive Priff area in this region. You also get crystal implings, and as we kind of talked, this region's going to be picked way less than you would expect it to be, being that the Bofa is here, which means the crystal imps are going to float around a little bit more, so you're actually relatively likely to find them just wandering about. Mining is going to be a don't train here. Volcano kind of trains it kind of passively, but that's kind of it. I talked about smithing already. I do also want to mention that Volcano gives you a actually ton of smithing supplies, and you have a very, very close bank to furnace to anvil that you can just make all your bars. There are no fish to catch. There is nothing good to cook. There are no fires to be lit. The thing with woodcutting is you can actually set up 2-tick teaks here with the rabbits in Priff, and that is some really, really, really fast woodcutting experience. So very, very nice. Farming is also very bad. There's no good farming here. Kind of to the end of this region, we've kind of covered everything this has to offer. I know it wasn't a lot. I really want to emphasize again, this region is something you pick for the high density of tasks. You only have to do 3 or 4 things this whole region. You can knock it all out as soon as you get here. Boom, in, out, gone, move on, never come back. While the Bofa isn't your best in slot ranged weapon with the ranged relic anymore, it is still very, very, very strong. Choosing it is totally valid, and you will still absolutely demolish most bosses by having it. The thieving content and the chin content with the trickster relic in this region is actually insane. It's so good, it's almost uncomparable how good it is in this region in comparison to others, but most of the other skilling is pretty bad. And this is the one region where you don't have to do any quests at all. You don't have to worry about it. And with that, once again, reminder to subscribe so you don't miss tomorrow's episode.